What's your plan? Yes or no?
Doty, you should stay behind.
Better jump like.
Stay behind and just take atmospheric notes. You know, time of day, position of sun, type of clouds. And if anyone tries to steal my stuff, describe them very well in the book.
Yes.
A little seagull kind of like flies overhead.
It's all for color, for the book, you know.
Another one. He's taking very, very good notes.
2 chapters of
Seagull
anatomy.
You're gonna have an excellent book on the mating habits of seagulls when you get back.
Eat your heart out, Darwin.
Yeah.
Doty's in the case.
Oh my god.
Perfect.
You, Matt.
It's ridiculous. All right, so you guys all eventually dive into the water, and as you do, you look down, and there is essentially a 40-foot wide gap in the beach here, like the just barely submerged beach that coasts down and drops off directly down into this kind of cylindrical section that is just open. And then as you kind of drift down, your goggles visible, you can see around you dry, pale reef that slowly gives way to colorful, life-teeming reef. You see hundreds of fish of different sizes and colors, all darting in and out of the various gaps and openings in the side. You see vibrant plant life beginning to just massively jut out from the side of this reef as you further down. You see eels twisting through, and bits of kelp and other sort of long underwater plant life tickle your body as you kind of push past and drift, kind of keeping track of where you're, slowly sinking down. Desperately trying to follow this dwarf that is no longer in view. He just dove straight down and is far more comfortable under the water than most of you. Eventually, the reef begins to cluster in tighter and tighter, and you start getting a little nervous as to if you're going to hit a bottom or hit a pinch point, and then suddenly it stops. The reef just ends, and you now are kind of floating down into what appears to be endless dark ocean. And just below you see just a faint bit of light. And you start noticing the dark color is because you're about to hit an extremely dense forest of underwater plant life. You watch as all of these long, thin tendrils of almost like vines covered in elongated leaves begin to just curl up around you, and you start pushing through, following this light. And as you get across to the edge, Keyleth, you're the closest ahead, and you guys are just enough light to kind of watch the beat of where Keyleth is. Keyleth, you can still see Durand and kind of keep that pace. It leads you down just over this bank of where the top of this underwater forest ends, and you see, attached to the reef above by a single pillar of stonework that seems to be built or carved out of the reef, emerges a spiraling tower that eventually ends on the floor of the ocean here. It's made of a yellowish-white sandstone-like color. There are pillars carved out of it, naturalistic, but also have almost a series of beveled edges to them. Within the inside, there is a dull green glow that is like sort of pulsating. And as Durin makes his way down towards one of the many openings throughout the floors, you can see there is a very, very faint, like a sparkling energy that seems to just drift up out of the center of this tower. As you make it further down towards the base, you now begin to see through some of the openings. The center of this tower is hollow. It is an exterior, almost like a very thin Colosseum-like structure that goes up from multiple floors, slowly pincering as it gets to the top, and it is just an open interior inside. As eventually you touch down onto the soft bottom of the ocean here and begin making your way, slowly swimming towards the interior, you can see a number of other similarly dressed wave riders, as well as armored guardians that stand, all with various trident or spear-like weapons. A number of them appear to be of varying races, human, half-elf, elf. It appears that Durin is the only dwarf you see in this vicinity, and a couple that appear to be merfolk, like straight-up half-human, half-fish, tails, fins, gills, the whole circumstance.
What does their hair look like?
You see two of them. One of which is male, no visible hair on him actually, just kind of the frill that goes down his head. The other is female, long kind of deep dark blue hair that just kind of drifts past, and as she shifts and turns and looks in your direction, you watch it kind of hold in place and slowly shift as the water currents push through.
I just stare at her.
As you're entranced by this, your attention slowly glides over to the very center at the base of this temple, where you can see there are these 3 large, smooth, grayish rocks that are just embedded in the ground, about 5 feet wide. And in the center of these 3 rocks, you see what appears to be it's almost like an oval shape, about 10 feet tall, about 5 feet wide, that is just crackling blue energy. This opening here. And you can watch as occasionally clouds of black, murky soot or sand, like deep ocean sand, kind of push through. You can see as you kind of get closer and peer in, this is a doorway into the plane. This is the rift. It looks unlike the one that you saw at Pyra, which seemed to kind of flicker and have a barely contained energy when you've seen it at its torn open stages. This appears to be fairly contained. It's demure. There's not a lot of movement. It's just stationary. And the guards that surround it in the center of this temple all kind of look inward, keeping a vigilant watch. As you kind of follow Durin making his way towards the doorway, you can see within each of these 3 large, half-buried stones, there's a smaller, like a deep, emerald green, almost jade-looking stone that's about that large that is embedded in each